Oklahoma State, I think, exposed some things, which Iowa State also did. And, we'll see if Baylor gets some of those corrected this week. Let's talk a little bit about that. Offensively, Baylor really has regressed in its last two games against Iowa State and against Oklahoma State. Now, admittedly, those are pretty good defensive units. But what's most concerning for the Baylor offense right now? And do you agree with Dave Aranda, in that the issues are fixable?
Well, I think obviously it's the offensive line. The holes aren't there like they were the first three games. Of course, they played two really good defenses, Iowa State and Oklahoma State, really good defensive lines. And they're going to face another good one against West Virginia. I think it's going to be tough to run again. And, Abram, Smith, Treston Avenue, they showed how well they can run when they get holes. And they're tough guys. They're tough physical runners. They can get yardage on their own too. But man, if they get a hole like Abram did in the third quarter against Oklahoma State, it's a 55-yard touchdown. Now, maybe they should put Dylan Doyle in. Maybe he needs to play like every snap of the game. Maybe that would help. But he had a pretty good clearing block there. He was really kind of made the path clear for Abram. But yeah, I think it's clearly the O-line. I think it's better than last year, but we'll see how much better, as they keep playing these good defenses.
You were mildly joking there about Dylan, but at the same time, you're right about his block. That was as good a block as any fullback could make. He sealed the guy off. There was a perfect hole. And if you are going to be this team that really is committed to running the ball as much as Baylor seems to be, why not mix in a fullback a little more often? Dave Aranda talked about one of the reasons they used Dylan on that play is there's really not an abundance of fullbacks on the roster. It's not a position that a lot of schools really recruit anymore, but obviously you're probably not going to play Dylan both ways all the time, but at the same time, I think there are opportunities to mix him in maybe a little more often. And I'll also say, so I agree with you to a certain extent about the O-line. They've got to play better. I do feel like they've still made massive strides this year on the O-line. I felt like play calling wise, they really took a step back these past couple weeks. And there were just times where I understand and agree with the idea of being committed to the run. Mm-hmm. That said, there are certain plays like third and short, and when you haven't been running well, when it feels like that's a passing down, and I just felt like Baylor really backed itself into a corner with some of its play calls. And of course, I was critical of the coaches in my column on Sunday. And Dave Aranda owned up to some of that in his press conference the other day, just saying that, the coaches were kind of hard on themselves after that game. And
right. I think they were a little desperate because, when your O-line is not blocking well, you're kind of limited in your options. So to me, it didn't seem like the coaches knew exactly what they wanted to do, just because, like the first three games, everything was going so well. They were 9 out of 10 on fourth down conversions. Well, actually that's through the first four games, but those first three games, they probably could have run just about any play and it would have worked on fourth down. I think they were kind of in desperation mode and, and maybe made some calls that they regret.
Yeah. And another thing I asked Dave Aranda about was if they have kind of the way I phrased it in my question to him was a break glass in case of emergency offense. If this thing is not working, do you have other looks to go to? And what he said was, well, it's the play action pass. Here's the problem with going to the play action pass when the run is not working is who cares about that play action fake?
Yeah.
Are you really going to bite on it if you're not concerned about the team's running game?
Yeah. If you can't run the ball, you're probably in trouble, and a lot of things just aren't going to work.
Yeah, for sure.